Hello and welcome to the Rope Break Podcast with me, Robert Enright, where we discuss all things wrestling. First things first, make sure you click subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you're listening to this from. Make sure you subscribe to make sure you get updated with our weekly podcast where we discuss a lot about the UK wrestling scene, All Elite Wrestling, and just a few other hot takes that are currently going on in the world of professional wrestling. You can also follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at _rope_break for daily content, pictures, funny little tidbits, and currently my breakdowns on current storylines within the WWE. So hello, welcome. This is the third episode. I'm really enjoying doing this. For those of you who are joining now, make sure you go back and listen to the other two. I'm changing the format slightly this week. I'm still going to be doing a review of NXT UK, and I'm also now doing a review of the weekly IPW UK show. But instead of doing it play by play, I'm just going to kind of give us the highlights, the overview of the episodes, and then we'll be discussing a few of the other things going on in the world of professional wrestling. But also, today, 15th of February, when we're recording this, is my birthday. That's right, I turned the ripe old age of 32 today. It's also Travis Banks, the Kiwi buzzsaw who you see in NXT UK and in a lot of indie promotions. He's also turned 32 today. Obviously our lives have gone in slightly different ways, where he's kicking ass on the wrestling scene and I'm sat here in my office talking about wrestling. But I wished him a happy birthday on Instagram and he liked it and he sent me a message too. So Travis Banks, not only are you a complete lad, but many happy returns, and I hope you have a great day. So what we're going to do first thing, we're just going to dive headfirst in to this week's NXT UK. And it was a good show. I think as a weekly product, I think NXT UK is going in the right direction. I think it's quite far behind NXT, but I think pretty much everything WWE do currently is so far behind NXT. I don't think NXT UK needs to really worry about it. But yeah, this week's one was, this is being filmed in Phoenix. I believe it was being filmed during Access at the Royal Rumble. So it's in the same arena that Worlds Collide was in. So it's quite a small, quite intimate arena. And yeah, I was quite keen to see how NXT UK would play out in front of a predominantly American audience. Because obviously UK wrestling fans, I don't know if you've watched much UK wrestling, they're quite passionate. And I've heard other podcasters, US based wrestling podcasters who review NXT UK are baffled by some of the chants that we have. So anyway, kicking the show off, Toni Storm comes out, the NXT UK Women's Champion. She looks cool. She's got a good look about her. She gets a good reception, and she runs a pretty decent promo about Rhea Ripley being a bully. Rhea Ripley comes out. The promo's pretty solid. It's quite short. It's quite sweet, and then Toni Storm just drops her, starts battering on her. They have a little bit of a brawl, and Rhea Ripley hightails it up the ramp. While Toni Storm holds her title up in the air. So yeah, it builds a bit of hype. Next week they're actually having the rematch. I reckon they'll keep the belt on Storm for now. But yeah, it was a pretty decent start to the show. Did its purpose. It wasn't anything really to write home about, but yeah, pretty decent. And then we get the first match of the night, which is Noam Dar from 205 Live taking on Jordan Devlin, who's really coming into his own as a star, not just in the UK in the UK wrestling scene. Jordan Devlin is a pretty big name, and I believe he's making really good inroads in WWE because they're really putting him on every week. He had a really good showing at the Worlds Collide tournament. And I think, they just need to keep going where they're going with Devlin. I can definitely see him being a contender for when Pete Dunne needs to give up his belt. However, we'll get on to who I think he'll drop that belt to. But yeah, this is a pretty good match straight from the off. My favourite referee, Ref Conway. For those of you who haven't listened to the other ones, there's a referee in NXT UK who's really muscly and really orange, and he looks a bit like Rob Conway. So he's in charge of this match. It's pretty good. Some good hard-hitting offense. It's a little bit slower than I would have expected from these two. But essentially it gets to a point where Devlin, he nearly gets a near fall with his springboard cutter. But he relentlessly attacks the ankle of Noam Dar, and he gets to the point, they're outside of the ring, and if you go back to the NXT UK takeover in Blackpool, he tried to cripple, Devlin tried to cripple Travis Banks on the steel steps, where he rests his ankle on it and he stamps on it. It's a really nasty, vicious move, and as he goes to do that, Travis Banks, the birthday boy, he comes out and they have a bit of a stare off. And then the action goes back into the ring. Devlin goes for a roll up with his feet on the ropes and Banks pushes them off. Banks then gets a kick in the face, but then Dar rolls Devlin up and gets the 1-2-3. Devlin then attacks him. Banks comes in and they brawl to the back, and Banks kind of kicks his ass up the ramp all the way to the back. But yeah, it's a really good, explosive start to the show. It's quite funny because everything I've seen of Devlin before NXT UK, he was like a really good babyface. But he's really coming into his own as like a really nasty, spiteful heel. Like, he's cocky, he's arrogant, he's a good-looking lad, he's got a really impressive physique. And yeah, I'm really digging where they're going with Jordan Devlin. And I'd like to see a nice payoff match between him and Banks soon on NXT UK. I definitely feel there's more for them to explore with those two. But I think it might need to go from just beyond them brawling every week. But we'll see from there. So sadly this week, there's no Volta in the ring. However, we are told that in 2 weeks' time, Volta will face NXT's Cassius Ohno. Now, Ohno is obviously like the gatekeeper at NXT. He pretty much loses every match. But him versus Volta is going to be really hard hitting. And I'm really looking forward to them smacking the living hell out of each other, because I think it will be really good. But yeah, so no Volta this week. We get his little picture, so I got a glimpse of him, but it's fine. And then we have some action from the women's division, where Ginny, who's really impressing me ever since I've started seeing her, she's up against Maya Yim. And this, again, it's a really good match. I think, you know, the in-ring action on NXT UK, apart from the odd match, is always really, really good. Ginny has this spot where she kind of does a flatliner into the turnbuckle, and every time I see her nail it, it looks really nasty. So she nails that in this match on Yim, who's a pretty good come from underneath babyface throughout. She locks in the tarantula like Tajiri used to do many years ago, and I remember the first time I ever saw the tarantula, I marked out. Like, I was so impressed by it. And actually, after I finished recording this podcast, I'm going to probably just binge watch a load of Tajiri matches, because I loved Tajiri. I thought he was such a great and exciting wrestler throughout the noughties for the WWE. Anyway, there's a really nasty spot in this match where Yim goes to do a German suplex into the turnbuckle, and Ginny really, really connects the back of her head on the bottom one, and it didn't look good. I'm not sure it's a particularly great spot for them to do again in the future. But Ginny picks up the win, feet on the ropes, classic heel work, and she's got a bit of momentum at the moment, Ginny. I've seen her win a couple on the bounce. I think Storm and Rhea Ripley will have their rematch next week. I fully expect Storm to retain the title. And yeah, then maybe I can't see beyond Ginny as the next contender for Toni Storm. I think they would have a pretty good in-ring dynamic. So we get another hype. So the NXT formula is very much we get a match. We then get these graphics of what matches are coming up over the next couple of weeks. And they say that next week we've got Gallus, the Coffey brothers, who are part of Gallus, versus Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan. And that'll be pretty good. I really like Joe Coffey. I think Joe Coffey's a really good member of the NXT UK roster. I think his match against Pete Dunne at TakeOver, it got a bit of stick. Maybe because it went on a little bit too long. I don't know. But I'd like to see them really dominate the tag division a little bit more. And it might be a bit tricky because obviously we have heel champions in Gibson and Drake. And I think Moustache Mountain, who I absolutely love Moustache Mountain, and I go on about it every week. I think they need to have a run with the belts quite early on. But I don't really see how they would go from Gibson and Drake to Gallus. There'd have to be a transition in between. And I think Moustache Mountain deserve more than being transitional champions. So I think it's a nice conundrum for them to have. They've got a couple of good teams in this in NXT UK, so hopefully they can build upon that division a bit more because they've got some real talent in there. We've got a really good advert for a documentary about Mark Henry. Now, I thought Mark Henry was a real late bloomer as a professional wrestler. I mean, his first decade or whatever with WWE was really bad, and there's a load of rumours around because Vince McMahon gave him a 10-year contract straight off the bat, and then I think they wanted to get rid of him pretty soon into it, but obviously Henry wasn't going to just step away from guaranteed money for that amount of time. So that's where you've got all these things like the sexual chocolate gimmick, him having sex with Mae Young, which was disgusting, giving birth to a hand. They were trying to greatly discredit him as a performer. So I think for a long time I found it that they were just they didn't really use Mark Henry. And I came into wrestling properly in the early noughties, from 2001 onwards. And then I remember they tried to make Mark Henry a main event threat to Batista when Batista was champion, and it didn't really work. And I don't think he really picked up as a main event level performer until much later in his career. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember, it's a really good, if you've never seen this scene, check it out on YouTube, where Mark Henry returned from 2 years out or something like that. And Batista's in the ring in a steel cage match. And Mark Henry storms out of nowhere. There's been no hype, no nothing. And he can't break the lock. So obviously it's kind of like that Kane moment where, he rips off the door when he debuted. So Henry's going to storm down, rip off the chain, rip off the padlock, get in the ring, and then, dominate Batista. But they had to cut it from the SmackDown taping. But there's footage online of Mark Henry being unable to rip off the chain. And he apparently stood there for a few minutes. And obviously because it's taped, they can edit it out. But in the arena, Batista had to watch this happen and then still take a beating. It's pretty embarrassing. But, I'm ragging on Mark Henry here. I actually think this documentary looks really good. And I thought his Hall of Pain gimmick was fantastic. It was well worth the title run that he got. And that segment with John Cena with the infamous salmon blazer is it's such a great wrestling segment where he fakes his retirement to then attack John Cena. It's a really good piece of it's a surprisingly good piece of acting from Mark Henry. And from what I read now, is Henry's now quite an influential character in the back. Like he now works like a road agent or a producer or something. But yeah, so it looks like a good ad. I'm ranting about Mark Henry here. But yeah, no, there's a documentary apparently coming onto WWE Network. I'll probably check it out. And if I do, I'll let you all know what I think. And then we come to our main event, which is Wolfgang, who's part of Gallus, versus the WWE NXT UK champion, Sir Peter of Dunnington. It's a non-title match. It's it's not a surprise. Pete Dunne wins. He's very popular. Even with the United States crowd. Like, you heard the reaction he got at the Royal Rumble. Here he gets constant chants, and WWE are now hyping up a international superstar shake-up. And I think by adding the word international in, I think they're directing it a little bit towards NXT UK. And beyond Moustache Mountain, the only other person I can kind of see making a seamless transition to the main roster would be Pete Dunne. And I think Pete Dunne he's a ready-made superstar. His mic skills are okay. But he's got such a spiteful in-ring, and he's quite unique with how nasty his offense is. Like, there's a lot of stamping, a lot of finger manipulation. Like, he'd make a great heel in like the upper mid card. Like, I could see him like with the US title, despite that having no credibility anymore. But if you gave him like a IC title, US title, and just had him as a real nasty piece of work, kind of like Samoa Joe, I think he'd be a great success on the main roster. And I do think, because they're hyping it as an international shake-up, I reckon Pete Dunne will move to the main roster. And I think, because I think it's happening just after WrestleMania. I may be wrong, I think it is. At the NXT UK takeover, or the NXT takeover on that weekend, I reckon we'll see Pete Dunne versus Volta. And Volta will win the NXT UK title. And Pete Dunne will then be free to move on to the WWE. But anyway, yeah, it's a good match. Wolfgang's actually got a pretty good offense for a big guy. He moves quite well. But in the end, he gets tapped out, and the show ends with Pete Dunne, title belt in mouth, fists out. Yeah, another good show this week. Really enjoying NXT UK. I think it's coming on from where it was. And yeah, I'm excited for next week. We've got the women's title match. I assume that will be the main event, and we've got the Coffee Brothers in action. So yeah, can't wait for it. Cannot wait. So, right, I've now got to move on. So I usually do these noteworthy parts, but I want to talk about noteworthy things that are going on in the WWE, because, like I said, this is more focused towards the UK wrestling scene and maybe a little bit of the independents. I've got quite a keen interest in All Elite Wrestling just because it's something new and it's starting from scratch and blah blah blah. But there's a lot of UK wrestling content providers who seem to just solely focus on the WWE, and a lot of it is around them criticizing the WWE but then just focusing entirely on it. And I don't want this podcast to do that, but I can't not talk about the current Becky Lynch storyline. And I kind of can, I can make a case for it because she's Irish. I'm starting to lose patience with it. Now, and I hear split, like a lot of people. So for the last couple of weeks, ever since I saw Becky turn up in a pickup truck, I've started to roll my eyes a little bit at how they're trying to force Becky into this Stone Cold Steve Austin role. And now they're laying it on so thick with her being this anti-establishment, this, fighting hero, anti-authority. And she's gone from being the most organic face in a long time, probably since the Yes movement. I know, like Rusev and the Rusev Day, that became really over with the audience, but Becky Lynch just had this wave of support, and it worked. And they tried to turn her heel. The fans just didn't take to it. They still cheered her. They booed everyone else. And now, there's only one outcome, and that's Becky Lynch has to win the title at WrestleMania. But I don't think that there was no need for 2 weeks ago when Stephanie McMahon told her she needed to go see the doctor. Like, I don't understand what they've done over the last few weeks with her character. Feels so forced and almost to the detriment of what she'd accomplished just naturally. Like, I don't think that, first off, I do not think she should have tapped out at the Royal Rumble. She should have passed out or whatever, but having her tap out to Asuka but then still act like she's the man, and that her fighting Ronda Rousey is like the biggest challenge ever. She can't beat Asuka. So I don't see why there's this awe about her now that she's this, the best women's wrestler there, the one that Rousey has to beat. Surely, in Rousey's eyes, she should have to want to beat Asuka, because Asuka is the other champion, and she just clean tapped out Becky Lynch. So they did that. Then Becky entered the Royal Rumble because somebody got injured, but she entered at effectively number 31. So she didn't battle through the Rumble. Like, if she had come out at number 1 in the Rumble, because that was all they could have given her, like she desperately begged to get in the Rumble, and then she got in at number 1 and then lasted, then yeah, that would be like, she's fighting for something here. But in this one, she came out after everyone had been in, and then she snuck in at the end, and yeah, she got a bit of a beating from Nia Jax, but then, all she was like, fight me. That's all she ever seems to say. And then there's a bit of road rage going on outside my house. Shut up. Yeah, so I don't see it as like this heroic victory that she did. She went in, she eliminated a few people, and then she eliminated Charlotte, who had been in there longer than her. So it's not that heroic. That night, this crowning moment for Becky Lynch of winning the Rumble came on a night where she tapped out cleanly and then snuck in and won the Rumble. It's hardly heroic. It's not the, Stone Cold was this, he just fought everyone and he went through hell to get to where he wanted. She just kind of snuck in through the back door. And then, yeah, her promo with Ronda the night after was great. It was brilliant. But then Stephanie comes out and all she does is say, we want to protect the main event. You need to get cleared by our doctors to wrestle at WrestleMania. That's it. If you don't, we'll have to suspend you because you're, and you can understand, logically, as an employer, that's the complete right thing to do. There's nothing heelish about that. And so she then decks her boss. It's like, how much could you try and force this stone cold narrative on her? So she attacks Stephanie because Stephanie is being a good boss. And then the following night, Triple H comes out and says the same thing. And then the only time he reacts badly to her is when she then goads him about decking his wife. And so then he just hits her with a few like, well, you're not getting, I mean, Triple H's mic work is brilliant. I love Triple H on the mic. But his speech about her being scared of Rousey was kind of logical, because why else would she not go and get cleared by the doctors? So then she slaps him, and like, I was watching it just thinking like, well, none of this is heroic. None of this is Becky Lynch being this anti-authority. She's just coming across like a dick. And then this week, obviously they replaced her with Charlotte after she apologised. Like, Stone Cold never apologised for anything. Stone Cold betrayed the WWF against WCW, joined the alliance, then they lost. He came back the next night. Vince McMahon said, "You have to kiss my ass to get back in this company." And Stone Cold got down on one knee and punched him straight in the balls. Like, that was Stone Cold. Becky Lynch on this night, she came back and she had to apologise, and she did. She said, "I'm sorry." Despite having this whole "you can stick it up your arse" and all this promo. And then it turns out that she went to see the doctor. She did it anyway. And then the WWE doctors spoke to her doctors, and all is fine. So why did she punch Stephanie and slap Triple H if she still went to the doctor? Like, I don't understand it. And I hear loads of other people going, "Oh, it's the best storyline. Oh, she's so good." I personally don't. I've lost interest. I'm starting to think like, I'm actually kind of lost for words. I don't really know how you can have something this organic and this great. And I know people are still cheering, and I'm really happy they'll get the main event, and I can understand why they put Charlotte in. Because I think if you put Charlotte in and Ronda Rousey leaves, then I believe you've then got two women wrestlers still on the roster who have main evented WrestleMania. And I think that is a really good thing for WWE. But I just think, they really need to get a handle on this Becky Lynch thing, because it's just they're trying to force something that I don't think it needs to be. And like, when you look at it logically, when you break it down and logically look at it, her character is just more spoiled brat than anything else. Anyway, I'll probably get loads of hate because you can't criticise Becky Lynch at the moment. Just like you can't criticise AEW. People are just so passionate about what's going on that anything you say to the contrary means you're a hater and you don't know anything. And I don't really care. I'd like them to turn it around. But it's just bad storytelling at the moment. And it doesn't need to be. It never needed to be. The other noteworthy points, I've always had a big thing for Kofi Kingston. I think he's a great wrestler. I think Randy Orton scuppered his push about a decade ago, when everyone's probably seen the video of him calling him stupid really loudly in the ring because he was meant to take a punt and he didn't, so Orton gave him an RKO. And then there's loads of rumours swirling around that Orton influenced WWE to kind of kill Kofi's push. And I kind of feel like Kofi's kind of the forgotten man in the New Day, because everyone loves Xavier Woods. He's so good, he's so charismatic, he's got his up, up, down, down channel, he's so funny, and he's really good in the ring. And Big E, in my opinion, is a world champion in the making. And I could probably do a whole podcast on how they could push Big E to become a world champion in the WWE. But that's a different conversation for a different time. But this week on SmackDown, that gauntlet match, when Kofi Kingston went over an hour, last year, Seth Rollins turned his WWE career around with his performance in that gauntlet match. And I'm really hoping that Kofi Kingston has done the same, because he's a veteran now. Like, I don't think people realise how long Kofi's been around for and just how much he's achieved. Like, he's got multiple IC title reigns, multiple US title reigns. I think he holds the record for the longest time of being a tag team champion. So he's in the history books, and he's a highlight reel. He's always reliable in the ring. I think his Royal Rumble escape spots they've kind of reached a nadir now. I think this year's were really disappointing, especially now that it kind of shows that the rule is you could just have your friends around, or you could throw a towel down and that person would be fine. But yeah, I think Kofi's performance in the Gauntlet has... it's a shame for Mustafa Ali, because apparently he was going to have that spot. But I think Kofi does have a connection with the WWE fans. And do you know what? I would like Kofi to have a hell of a showing in the Elimination Chamber. So whatever plans they had, everyone's been talking about who does Daniel Bryan face at WrestleMania. It could be Bray Wyatt, who's not been relevant for a while now. Could be John Cena, who probably won't be around to do the program leading up to it. Why not have somebody else join Daniel's, vegan crusade, and have Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston? But then obviously you've got his Rowan and whoever. I think Luke Harper's still out injured, but you could bring anyone. Bring Lars Sullivan in if he's feeling better, or bring anyone. You could get anyone who's doing nothing on the roster, and then you could just have Kofi and the New Day. So you've got 3 versus 3, and have Kofi versus Bryan, and just give Kofi his moment. Have Kofi Kingston win the belt. Give him a few months he's earned a world title run, 100%. But his performance was fantastic. The crowd were really into it. And that's probably the only interesting thing about the Elimination Chamber this Sunday is Kofi Kingston. And that probably shows you how disinterested I am currently in WWE. But yeah, it was great. So if you haven't checked it out, check out Kofi Kingston's performance. It was brilliant. It really was. It was great. And it's things like that it just feels like there's still some magic bubbling up in WWE, and until they do that on a more regular basis, I'm still going to be pretty unenthused by it. There's rumours swirling around that the Usos contract is coming up in April and they might not re-sign. I don't know how likely that is. They kind of seem like WWE lifers, because Rikishi's their dad, and they're one of the prominent teams. They've been there like 9 years now. But I think Jimmy Uso was arrested this week for some apparently squaring up to a police officer. They've had, Jay's had a run-in with the law last year. I'd expect them, they got a WWE tag title match against Miz and fucking Shane McMahon at the Elimination Chamber. I don't think they'll win the belts. I could see them getting a bit of a D push, and you never know. They might think, actually, let's go. What else is there for them? They've won everything. They've won it on Raw. They've won it on SmackDown. I never see them splitting. I don't think there's any value in them as singles wrestlers. So yeah, they might do. Why not? Leave. I wouldn't be adverse to see... I know it's the common thing now. Yeah, leave. Go to AEW. Oh, imagine that. But actually, the AEW, which we'll get onto, their tag team division is looking pretty good. And there isn't a tag team division in the world that wouldn't be improved by the Usos. So I'd say watch this space. Like I said, I don't think it's likely, but I can't see how many chances the WWE will give the two of them when they keep having these disorderly and driving under the influence. They're not setting the best example. And in a world now where every fan is connected on social media, everyone knows what's going on. So maybe, you never know, like they could do. The other big rumor going around was apparently AEW are looking at offering Randy Orton a too good to turn down contract. Again, Orton, it's not like he's been treated badly by the WWE. He's had a career probably slightly better than what his in-ring ability warrants, but he is a star. Like the way he carries himself, when he cares, Orton is a hell of a heel, and I think he's probably enjoyed this last year as a sadistic heel a lot better than his feud with Jinder Mahal. And Orton and Cody, I think they did spend a lot of time together. I don't know what the personal relationship there is, but Orton does kind of seem like he looks out for himself a bit more than he cares about the business. And if the AEW are going to offer him stupid money, then I think he would be a huge deal. If Orton left... Because at the moment, people are talking about who's signing for AEW and all this. And Jericho is a big deal, because Chris Jericho's possibly the best wrestler of all time. However, what they need is a bona fide current main eventer to move across. And as big as Orton would be at doing that, I reckon it will be AJ Styles. Because apparently there's all this talk about his contract negotiations, and AJ Styles strikes me as somebody who cares about the whole industry, and he's done it everywhere. He's done it on the indies. He did it in 2002 in the FWA that I was live at. He did it in Japan, and then he came to WWE nearer the end of his career, and he's main evented WrestleMania. He's been the champion a few times. He's fought pretty much every main star currently on the roster. I can't see what else is there for AJ Styles in the WWE now. I mean, he wants a contract kind of like Orton's, where he can... sorry, I'm just going to click my light on. Where he wants a reduced schedule, spend some more time with his kids. He would get that there, and I think he would care more about the impact AEW could have on wrestling than Orton would. But anyway, it might be completely irrelevant, because it could be The Undertaker, which sounds like the craziest thing ever. But The Undertaker apparently has removed all links to the WWE from his social media. He's charging $25,000 for a 1-hour appearance. And apparently, this has been confirmed, his first non-WWE booking is at Starcast the day of Double or Nothing, which I believe is something that the indies people do, like the indie scene does. It's a meet and greet for fans. So The Undertaker could be in and around Las Vegas when Double or Nothing is on. And it sounds mental. Like, I can't believe we're talking about this. This is The Undertaker. Joe, this is the WWE guy. Yeah, he's been there for decades. He's done it all. He is synonymous with the WWE. Could he go to AEW? I mean, it's possible. Anyway, we'll leave it there. We'll TBC. But that's kind of it. That's the last of the WWE that I want to talk about. And I'll probably do this. I think that's quite a good little part of the show. I quite enjoy talking about what's going on, what's good, what's bad, and just rumours and stuff like that. So next, last Friday was the IPW UK's debut 1-hour show on Sky, channel 192. I forget the name of the channel now. Is it Sky Showcase or something like that? Anyway, channel 192. Fridays, 9 p.m. IPW now have a weekly show. And the first show was last week. The second one is obviously this week, which I'll be watching, and I'll review it next week. So the first ever show, I thought overall it was pretty good. And if people are expecting NXT UK levels of production and things like that, you're in for a shock. It's not low budget, but the production is the in-ring action is good. The atmosphere, it's good. Like the setting, it's got a lot of character. It's in like a kind of a warehouse, small ring, only fans around two sides of it. The commentator is almost sitting in the ring. Yeah, like it looks a lot cheaper, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a good wrestling show. And I was watching it, and my soon-to-be wife, she came in while I was watching it, and she was like, "What the hell are you watching?" And I just said, "I'm watching some wrestling." And she kind of slammed on it a little bit for its lack of quality in that kind of thing. And I said, "Well, this show isn't for casual fans. I think this show is for people who are quite in tune with the UK wrestling scene, and it's a really good way of seeing those stars, and it gets them on TV as well, and it's great. Like, I follow a lot of them on social media, and I'm seeing these people who have been performing in small venues, trying to make their way, and now they're performing on a weekly TV show. So it's great. It's really good, and I'm really rooting for it. And the first show, like I said, was really good. Started straight off with the women's champion, Sierra Loxton, the freaky princess. Her gimmick, I don't really know what it is. It just seems to be like she has this kind of sequins cloth around her neck, and she just does a lot of twirling. And then she faced Candy Floss, who I saw in NXT UK, and I thought her match was pretty bad, and I hated the gimmick. This match, she was actually pretty good. Like, she was a lot better, and she had a lot more offense, and she came across almost like a heel. I beg that she gets rid of this gimmick, because it's really bad. She's really bright, really colourful. She has sweets, but it's just, at the beginning of the match, because they're friends, they didn't want to fight, and they were giving each other the love symbol and having a hug, and I was rolling my eyes. I was just, this is... And then when the action got going, it was good. Like, it was a good, solid wrestling match. Loxton won with... I can't remember the name of the move now. It's basically the KO cannonball in the corner. She picks up the win. But yeah, like, it was a good kickoff. The only negative side, a couple of negatives for the show. One was the promos were just somebody sat down in the back. Like, they had one with Loxton, they had one with Big Grizzly, who apparently has independent victories over Keith Lee and Matt Riddle. So he's obviously booked quite well on the indie scene. He's quite a big guy, big beard. I can see him probably being quite like the dominant heel role. But him and Mike Bird, who was in the main event, they all had just sit down promos, and none of them really seemed that natural in front of the camera. And it was, they weren't great. And the only other negative was quarter of the show was a look back at a match from another show, which was when Hirada beat Castle for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. And it was a good match, but, it's a 15-minute replay. So I think that, as the shows go on, they'll have more content, they'll have this stuff. But I kind of felt like a little bit shortchanged by that 15 minutes. Anywho, the next thing we had Sammy Smooth come out, who had pretty good look about him. I've seen him on Instagram, him and Lewis Howley at Hustle Wrestle Gym, which I'm tempted to go to. I probably should, but I don't know. And apparently Howley betrayed Smooth to join up with a guy called Sexsmith. That turned into a handicap match, but Howley didn't want to hurt Smooth, and there was quite a humorous moment where Sexsmith's yelling at Howley to hit his former partner, and he goes to do a chop, and he just gives him this really limp slap on the nipple. Eventually, Sexsmith just runs his mouth too many times at Howley. Howley turns on Sexsmith, rejoins with Smooth. Smooth picks up the win. They kind of alluded to that this betrayal of Howley on Smooth happened really recently. So he's kind of gone back to him already. Like, I don't know. Like, obviously, I don't know the full backstory, but if that's the case, I don't know how big that payoff was. But anyway, and the main event was Mike Bird as previously mentioned, facing Mark Haskins, the IPW UK Heavyweight Champion, for the title. And this was a really good match. It was fast paced. Apparently there was a bit of story here that Bird had lost to Haskins before. And Bird comes out and he's relentless to begin with. He actually kind of dominates the first part of the match. And then they fight back. They have a couple of good suicide dive moments. And Haskins eventually taps him out with a really brutal looking sharpshooter. He properly almost arches back to the point where his back is against Mike Bird's. And it looks painful. A lot of people don't do a sharpshooter that well. I mean, I'm looking at The Rock here. His sharpshooter was wank. But this was really good. And it was a good match, a really good end to the show. And apparently next week we've got David Starr versus Rob Sharp for contendership for that title shot. And on Instagram they've been hyping that Pac is going to be at the tapings at the end of this month. So we'll see him soon on IPW. So it'll go from strength to strength, and I'm rooting for it, guys. And by all means, you probably won't listen. If they listen to this, I'm going to be hyping you guys up. I'm going to be doing a weekly review of the show. Keep up the good work, guys. Keep it up. It's really good. And now, lastly, I kind of want to talk about All Elite Wrestling. And I know we spoke a little bit about it earlier. With the rumours of the Usos and Orton and possibly Undertaker. They did their ticket announcement, and the worst kept secret in the world, Kenny Omega has now signed officially with AEW. It's a huge signing. I don't think he's quite the needle mover some of his fans and AEW fans think he is. He's a big deal. I don't think he's a game-changing deal. I think that would be an AJ Styles or something like that. But they had their ticket reveal pie. Hold on, I'm just going to have a quick drink. But yeah, it was good. Obviously, Omega turned up. The Lucha Bros are there. Pentagon Jr. probably has the greatest look in wrestling at the moment. He just looks mean. The Young Bucks got in their face. And they beat up the Young Bucks. So apparently it's Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros at Double or Nothing, which will be great. Hangman Page turned up. And then Pac came up on the screen doing a funny little iPhone promo. But his promo was great. Pac's mic skills, I think, are really underrated. Because I thought he had a couple of really good promos when he was the Cruiserweight Champion. But his promo here to Adam Page was really good. And I'm really looking forward to that match. And I actually think Pac's got to be in the running to be the first champion. And also SoCal Uncensored are there, officially in there as well. So Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, who's been one of my favourite wrestlers for the last 20 years. He's the best wrestler to never wrestle in the WWE, in my opinion. I think he's really good, and I'm glad he never went there because he would have just been stuck in the Cruiserweight division. And then obviously the tickets went on sale and they sold out in 4 minutes. I mean, that is fantastic. That doesn't show that AEW are competition, because I think to compete with the WWE now, they need an awful lot more than what they currently have. What that shows is they are a clear alternative, because people want something different from the WWE, myself included. I talk about, I'm so unenthused by the WWE. I'm already over Seth Rollins being the Royal Rumble winner. I'm not that excited about WrestleMania because I think they are ruining the Becky Lynch storyline. People want that alternative and they want something different. And I know there's some people who are banging the drum of AEW saying they're going to, but they are off. I don't think they will ever compete at the way WCW did back in the day. I think WWE's stronghold is too big now. But I do think they will offer a very good alternative, and I do think we will see people leave WWE to go to AEW because they do have the financial clout. But right now, I think we'll see Double or Nothing. The only thing apparently about Double or Nothing is Cody Rhodes has had surgery on his knee. He should be okay for it. I mean, who Cody fights at Double or Nothing hasn't been determined yet. So we know we're going to have Omega versus Jericho 2. And if you haven't seen Jericho's promo on, I saw it on Instagram about the tickets selling out, make sure you go and watch it because it's brilliant. It's really good. He just talks about how they didn't do it, he did it, and it's so good. And it goes that he's, possibly the greatest of all time. We got Omega versus Jericho 2, Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks, Hangman Page versus Puck. I don't know if I'm missing another match. But yeah, I mean, those three matches alone are more exciting than anything WWE got on this weekend. So yeah, it's really exciting time. I'd be interested to see who else signs with them. And yeah, we'll just watch. But while we're talking about like the Elimination Chamber, like that card is Rousey versus Ruby Riott, so we know Rousey will win that. Shane and Miz, who are inexplicably the tag champions, against the Usos, so they'll probably win that. Seth Rollins isn't booked, Brock Lesnar isn't booked. We've got Finn Balor against Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush, which I imagine will be dull because Lashley is dull. And they don't let Balor do anything except get beaten up. We've got Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin. That's exciting, hey? And then you got the Elimination Chamber match, which I'm excited because of Kofi. That's literally it. Because I don't think anyone else has I think Bryan will win. But just I'll put that. So this is why I'm kind of focusing on the UK scene, because on the same day at Over the Top Wrestling in Ireland, you've got a card that has Volta defending the title against Pac. You've got Will Ospreay attending, MJF, Mark Haskins, and you've also got Jordan Devlin versus David Starr. Now, I don't know if people have followed that storyline or whatever. If you haven't, go on YouTube and watch the promo video for this match, because it's probably the best promo video I have seen since The Rock vs Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17. It's 7 minutes long, highlighting how they became friends and then how obsession broke them apart. And it is really good. Like, it's a really good video. And that card is so much more exciting than the big WWE product, which is a machine that's churning it out. And I think, I know there's loads of factors. Like, they have this weekly responsibility to, put these shows out. But it's just so uninspiring. What is inspiring is I may have mentioned I'm going to Progress Wrestling on the 24th of February, Chapter 84, with the tagline of "It's good beef. Anybody have a bottle of orange juice?" Which you've probably just thought I've had some kind of stroke. I haven't. That's a quote from the League of Gentlemen, which is brilliant because it's one of my favourite programs of all time. Let me just quickly run through this card and you'll see why I'm so excited. We have Volta versus Chris Ridgway for the title. We have Trent Seven doing an open challenge of his Atlas Championship. We've got Ginny versus Nina Samuels, both of whom are on NXT UK. We've got Travis Banks versus Jordan Devlin, which is obviously a burning feud on NXT UK. We've got the Swords of Essex versus the Aussie Open, and the Swords of Essex includes Will Ospreay, who I'm going to see live, and also like Mark Haskins, the IPW UK champion. He's on the card, teaming with Mark Andrews, who's from NXT UK. So this is, I'm so excited. It's my first live event in about 17 years. So that's the 24th of February. The podcast after that, I will give you guys a full review. I'm so excited. I get to see Volta in person. Like, my man crush for this man is going mental. But yeah, it's good. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan, especially a good time to be a UK wrestling fan. That's kind of it really for this week. If you're following me on Instagram at _rope_break, you may have seen that I had a bit of a WWE 2K19 night the other night. So I'm also on Twitch. I've started up a Twitch channel, and I've built the All Elite Wrestling on WWE 2K. So I've got the full roster, I've got the full thing, and I'm now going to be doing a weekly Twitch stream. So there's currently a tournament for the champion. So if you're into Twitch, if you're into watching gaming, by all means stop by. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the posters of when my streams are, but there'll be a 9 p.m. GMT UK time every Tuesday for about an hour, I guess. I'm also looking at doing a kind of an NXT UK show, but kind of just more of a UK wrestling stream. So just all the UK wrestlers I can get on the game, put them into one universe, and I'll do shows on that. And also, because I've unlocked all the legends in the game, I'm kind of tempted to do like a Legends universe, and I might do like a weekly stream of, like The Rock, Stone Cold, Bret Hart, Andre the Giant, Eddie Guerrero, my favourite wrestler of all time. Yeah, I might do that. So, obviously, for listeners who are not into Twitch, ignore all this. For those of you who do follow on Twitch, who do watch Twitch streamers, my channel is the_alternate_universe. But yeah, check out on Instagram. I'll be putting plenty of graphics on there. But yeah, make sure you check it out. And like I said, follow me on Instagram at the_rope_break, on Twitter at the_rope_break, and make sure you click subscribe on either YouTube. So click subscribe on YouTube, follow the YouTube channel, or if you're listening on iTunes, Podbean, or SoundCloud, make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and I will see you all next week.